A retired NYPD detective analyzing security camera footage from a neighbor's Ring camera has identified what he believes is a Kia Soul driving past at 2:36 in the morning on February 1st, 8 minutes. That is the gap between 2:28 a.m. when Nancy Guthrie's Pacemaker application disconnected from her phone, likely indicating the moment she was removed from her home or moved far enough away that the Bluetooth connection was severed, and 2:36 a.m. when a vehicle that appears to be a Kia Soul was captured on camera 2.5 miles away on a back road that provides a route out of the Catalina Foothills neighborhood while avoiding major intersections. 8 minutes to drive from Nancy's home to that back road location. 8 minutes that could represent the time frame during which someone who took Nancy drove away from the crime scene using secondary roads to avoid main streets where more cameras and more police presence would create higher risk of detection. A Kia Soul, a specific make and model identified by an expert based on distinctive features visible in nighttime Ring camera footage. The sloped roofline, the window design, the side rear glass, the vertical brake lights, features that collectively point to one particular vehicle type. But here is what makes this both significant and deeply frustrating for anyone following this investigation. The neighbor who owns this camera, Elias and Danielle Strategouleas, told Fox News Digital on February 26th that police had not searched their neighborhood in the 25 days since Nancy was taken. Not searched, not canvassed, not knocked on doors, not requested footage, nothing. Despite living on a back road called Camino Real that provides a direct route away from Nancy's home while avoiding major intersections. Despite having a street-facing Ring camera that captured 12 vehicles during the 6-hour window when Nancy disappeared. Despite being only 7 minutes driving distance from the crime scene according to Google Maps, the police never came. And when Fox News asked investigators whether this footage showing what appears to be a Kia Soul 8 minutes after Nancy's Pacemaker stopped is useful to the investigation, the response was that it is not immediately clear if the video is useful. Not immediately clear, which could mean investigators do not know yet whether this vehicle is connected. Or it could mean they have investigated and determined it is not connected but are not saying so publicly. Or it could mean they are still investigating and cannot comment. Or it could mean something else entirely. But what it definitely means is that 26 days into this investigation, a vehicle identified by a national security expert as appearing to be a Kia Soul captured on camera 8 minutes after the likely moment of abduction has not led to public identification of a suspect, has not led to any announcement of breakthrough, has not produced the answers that Nancy's family desperately needs. If you want to understand what this Kia Soul identification actually means, why the 8-minute timeline is significant even if it does not prove connection, why police not canvassing this neighborhood represents a serious gap in the investigation, what other evidence emerged from this same back road including a suspicious man seen the day after Nancy disappeared and an abandoned dark red Honda SUV with a damaged bumper that sat there for 3 days while sheriff's deputies examined it, how vehicle identification from security footage actually works, and what level of certainty experts can achieve, and why investigators are saying it is not clear if this footage is useful despite the apparent precision of the timing, then subscribe to True Crime Vault right now. This channel breaks down evidence systematically without sensationalism, explains the investigative context that casual observers miss, and follows cases through to resolution with factual accuracy and detailed analysis that respects both the victims and the complexity of real investigations. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications because this case continues to develop in unexpected directions. And when the Kia Soul identification leads somewhere or when investigators finally explain why it does not lead anywhere, you want to understand the full context and the full story. Hit the like button as well, because this kind of detailed investigative breakdown with multiple sources and careful analysis deserves to reach everyone following this case and everyone interested in understanding how modern investigations actually work. And comment below telling us whether you think the Kia Soul at 2:36 a.m. is connected to Nancy's abduction, or whether you believe the 8-minute gap is pure coincidence and this vehicle belongs to someone with no connection to the crime. Now let us examine exactly what Fox News reported in their exclusive February 26th article, what the expert analysis by Pat Brosnan concluded about vehicle identification, what the timeline tells us about possible routes and time frames, and why this entire neighborhood was never searched by police despite being 7 minutes from the crime scene. On February 26, 2026, Fox News Digital published exclusive reporting about security camera footage from the home of Elias and Danielle Strateguleyas, who live on Camino Real, a back road in the Catalina foothills area of Tucson, Arizona. Their home is approximately 2.5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's residence, measured as straight-line distance. According to Google Maps, the actual driving distance following roads rather than going straight through properties is about 7 minutes of driving time, which suggests an actual road distance of perhaps 3 to 4 miles, depending on the specific route taken, and assuming normal residential speed limits of 25 to 35 miles per hour. The Strateguleyas' home has a ring camera that faces the street, positioned to monitor activity on Camino Real. That camera recorded 12 vehicles passing between midnight and 6 a.m. on February 1, 2026, during the 6-hour window when investigators believe Nancy was abducted from her home, based on the timeline of when her doorbell camera was disabled at 1:47 a.m. and when her pacemaker app disconnected at 2:28 a.m. 12 vehicles over 6 hours is one vehicle every 30 minutes on average, though the actual distribution was not evenly spaced based on the timestamps visible in the footage that Fox News obtained and published. Fox News obtained this footage from the Strateguleyas family and shared it with Pat Brosnan for analysis. Pat Brosnan is identified in the Fox News article as a retired NYPD detective and national security expert. His background in law enforcement and his experience analyzing evidence and footage give his assessments weight and credibility, though as with any expert analysis, there are limitations to what can be concluded definitively from nighttime security camera footage captured at a distance from residential cameras not designed for forensic quality capture. Brosnan examined the vehicles visible in the Strateguleyas footage with his team and focused particular attention on one vehicle that passed the camera at 2:36 in the morning on February 1st. Based on distinctive visual characteristics visible in the ring camera footage, despite the limitations of nighttime recording and the distance from camera to subject, Brosnan told Fox News Digital that he and his team believe the vehicle is a Kia Soul. Not might be or could be or possibly is. Brosnan stated they believe it is a Kia Soul based on their analysis. The identification is based on several specific features that Brosnan observed and that he explained to Fox News. First, the sloped roofline. Kia Souls have a distinctive overall boxy shape that makes them recognizable in the compact crossover category, but the roofline is not flat. It slopes from front to back in a way that creates a specific profile when viewed from the side. That slope, combined with the overall proportions of the vehicle, creates a silhouette that differs from other vehicles in the same general size category. Even in low-resolution footage where fine details are not visible, the overall shape and the roofline angle can often be distinguished. Second, the window design. The configuration and proportions of the windows on a Kia Soul, particularly the side windows and how they relate to the A-pillar, B-pillar, and C-pillar of the vehicle, create a pattern that automotive experts and experienced investigators can identify. The size of the front door windows relative to the rear door windows, the shape of the window openings, the amount of body panel between windows, all of these create a recognizable pattern. Third, the side rear glass. Kia Souls have a specific design for the rear quarter windows, the small triangular or trapezoid-shaped windows behind the rear doors. The size, shape, and positioning of these windows differs from other compact crossover vehicles and creates another identifying characteristic that can be visible even in footage that is not high resolution. And fourth, the vertical brake lights. The tail lights on Kia Souls are oriented vertically rather than horizontally. They run up and down rather than side to side. And they have a distinctive appearance and positioning that Brosnan noted in his analysis of the footage. When a vehicle brakes, the brake lights illuminate, and in nighttime footage, those illuminated brake lights often show up more clearly than other details of the vehicle. The pattern of vertical lights in the specific configuration that Kia Souls use would be visible to someone analyzing footage frame by frame. Vehicle identification from security camera footage is not an exact science, especially when the footage comes from a residential ring camera recording at night, rather than from a high-resolution traffic camera or surveillance system recording in daylight with optimal conditions. But experienced investigators, automotive experts, and analysts who have looked at thousands of vehicles and footage over years of work develop the ability to recognize makes and models based on distinctive features visible even in imperfect conditions. Brosnan's identification of this vehicle as a Kia Soul is his professional assessment based on what he observed in the footage using his experience and expertise. It is not definitive proof that could be used in court without corroboration. It is an expert opinion that this vehicle appears to match the characteristics of a Kia Soul based on the visible features he analyzed. Could Brosnan be wrong? Yes. Could the vehicle be a different make or model that happens to share similar characteristics? Possibly. Without being able to read a license plate, or without additional footage from closer or from better angles, or without the vehicle being identified through other means, there is always uncertainty in visual identification. But Brosnan is putting his professional reputation behind the assessment that this appears to be a Kia Soul. That carries significant weight even if it is not absolute certainty. Now let us examine the timeline in detail, because the timing is what transforms this from just another vehicle in the footage to a potentially critical piece of evidence if it is connected to the crime. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker monitoring application disconnected from her iPhone at 2:28 a.m. on February 1st, according to the official timeline that the Pima County Sheriff's Department has released publicly. That 2:28 a.m. timestamp has become one of the most important data points in this entire investigation, because it likely represents the moment when Nancy was moved far enough from her phone that the connection maintaining the Pacemaker app was broken. The Pacemaker app uses Bluetooth or similar short-range wireless technology to maintain connection between the pacemaker device in Nancy's chest and the monitoring app on her iPhone. That connection has a limited range, typically measured in feet or meters rather than long distances. As long as Nancy is in proximity to her phone, the connection remains active and the app continues monitoring. When Nancy moves beyond the range of that connection, or when the phone is no longer near the pacemaker, the connection breaks and the app disconnects. Nancy's phone was found inside her house by investigators. Nancy was not found. So the 2:28 a.m. disconnection likely means Nancy was removed from the house or was moved to a location within the property far enough from wherever her phone was that the wireless connection could not be maintained. Most investigators and analysts following this case interpret 2:28 a.m. as approximately when Nancy was taken out of the house and put into a vehicle or otherwise removed from the immediate area where her phone remained. Could the disconnection mean something else? Could it be a technical glitch or a battery issue or some other explanation? Possible, but unlikely given the circumstances. Nancy disappeared that night. Her doorbell camera was disabled at 1:47 a.m. Motion was detected at 2:12 a.m. and the pacemaker disconnected at 2:28 a.m. The pattern of those timestamps tells a story of someone approaching at 1:47, doing something at the property at 2:12, and removing Nancy at 2:28. That timeline is consistent and logical. So we take 2:28 a.m. as the likely moment of removal from the house. And we have a vehicle that Pat Brosnan identifies as appearing to be a Kia Soul passing the Stradiglia's camera at 2:36 a.m. That is an 8-minute gap, 8 minutes from the pacemaker disconnection, indicating Nancy was taken to a vehicle passing a camera 2.5 miles away on a back road. If you drive from Nancy's home on Camino Escalante to the Stradiglia's home on Camino Real using the most direct route available through residential streets, Google Maps estimates 7 minutes of driving time under normal conditions. 7 minutes is the baseline. But that assumes you are already in the vehicle and moving when you start the timer. In reality, if you take someone from a house at 2:28 a.m., you need time to move from inside the house to a vehicle parked outside or nearby. You need time to start the vehicle. You need time to begin driving. So 7 minutes of driving time might translate to 8 or 9 minutes of total elapsed time from the moment of taking someone to the moment you pass a camera 7 minutes of driving away. 8 minutes of elapsed time between 2:28 and 2:36 fits perfectly with the scenario of taking Nancy at 2:28, getting her into a vehicle, and driving immediately toward a back road route away from the neighborhood. The timeline is not too long to be plausible. It is not so short as to be impossible or to require implausibly fast movement. It is exactly what you would expect if someone left Nancy's home right around 2:28 and drove directly to the Camino Real area. Let me show you why the route matters. Nancy's home is on Camino Escalante in the Catalina foothills. Camino Real is a back road that runs through the foothills in a different part of the neighborhood. To get from Camino Escalante to Camino Real, you can use residential streets without going through major intersections. Fox News published a map showing the route and the relationship between the two locations. The route avoids East River Road, which is one of the major east-west thoroughfares through the area. It avoids other main streets where traffic cameras and police presence would be more likely. Why would someone planning a crime choose a route that avoids main streets? Because main streets are where you are most likely to be seen, most likely to be captured on traffic cameras, most likely to encounter police patrols. Back roads through residential areas have fewer cameras, less lighting, fewer people awake and looking out windows at 2:30 in the morning. If you are fleeing a crime scene and you have thought about your escape route in advance, which someone who spent months planning this crime presumably did, you identify routes that minimize visibility and detection risk. Camino Real leading to East River Road provides exactly that kind of route. You can exit Nancy's immediate neighborhood using residential streets, work your way to Camino Real, which is a back road itself, and then use Camino Real to reach East River Road farther from Nancy's home, where joining main road traffic would be less suspicious than leaving directly from her immediate area. This is why the Kia Soul passing the Strategulias camera at 2:36 a.m. is potentially significant, not just because of the 8-minute timeline, but because of the location. That vehicle was on a route that makes sense as an escape route for someone leaving Nancy's neighborhood. If the vehicle had been captured on a completely different road in a different part of Tucson with no logical connection to routes from Nancy's home, the timing would be interesting, but the location would argue against connection. But this vehicle was on a road that is connected by logical routes to Nancy's home, and that provides a way to reach major roads while avoiding the immediate area of the crime. Let me be very clear about what this timeline and route analysis suggests and what it absolutely does not prove. If someone took Nancy at approximately 2:28 a.m. and immediately drove away from her home using back roads to avoid main streets, and if that person drove past the Strategulias camera at 2:36 a.m., that would place them on a logical escape route at a time consistent with fleeing the scene. Everything about the timeline and the route fits with that scenario. The 8-minute gap is plausible. The location makes sense. The route connects. But none of that proves the Kia Soul is connected to the crime. Correlation is not causation. Consistency is not proof. The vehicle could belong to someone who lives on Camino Real and who happened to be driving home or leaving home at 2:36 a.m. for reasons completely unrelated to what happened at Nancy's house 2.5 miles away. The 8-minute gap could be pure coincidence. The route could be irrelevant because the driver was not coming from Nancy's area at all, but was simply a resident of Camino Real going about their normal business. Without additional evidence connecting that specific vehicle to Nancy Street, without identifying the driver and finding connections to other evidence in the case, without witnesses who saw that vehicle near Nancy's home, without forensic evidence linking the vehicle to the crime scene, the timeline and route remain suggestive but not conclusive. They create a question that needs investigation. They do not provide an answer. This is why Fox News reported that it is not immediately clear if the video is useful to the investigation. The footage exists. The vehicle has been identified by an expert as appearing to be a Kia Soul. The timing is consistent with fleeing the crime scene. The route makes logical sense. But whether investigators can use this footage to actually identify the driver, to determine whether that driver has any connection to Nancy or to the crime, to establish whether this vehicle was anywhere near Nancy's home rather than just coincidentally passing on a back road 2.5 miles away, those are questions that have not been answered publicly and may not be answerable without additional evidence or investigative work that has not been completed or that has been completed but not disclosed. Subscribe to True Crime Vault if you have not already. Turn on all notifications. Like this video. Visit our channel to see our comprehensive previous coverage of this case, including detailed analysis of the doorbell camera footage, the Google search timeline, the DNA evidence, and every other major development. Comment below with your assessment. Do you think the timing is too precise to be coincidence? Or do you think an 8-minute gap 2.5 miles away proves nothing without additional evidence? We want thoughtful analysis from our community. Now let me explain why the fact that police never searched this neighborhood is deeply concerning and what it tells us about potential gaps in the investigation. Elias and Danielle Strategulias told Fox News Digital that in the 25 days between Nancy's disappearance on February 1st and their interview with Fox News on February 26th, police had not conducted searches in their neighborhood on Camino Real, had not knocked on their door to ask about security cameras, had not asked about footage, had not conducted door-to-door canvassing the way investigators typically do in the immediate aftermath of a major crime. Nothing. The police presence they expected never materialized. The investigators they thought would come never came. This is significant and concerning for multiple reasons that speak to how this investigation has been conducted and whether there are gaps in the initial evidence gathering that might have missed critical information. First, their home is only 2.5 miles straight-line distance from Nancy's home. 7 minutes driving distance via roads. That is not far, that is close. That is well within the area where someone fleeing a crime scene could be within minutes of the crime. That is close enough that residents of that area might have seen vehicles passing that struck them as unusual, might have heard something, might have observed behavior worth reporting, yet no one from law enforcement came to ask. Think about how investigations are typically conducted after a serious crime. Investigators flood the area. They knock on every door within a reasonable radius of the crime scene. They ask residents if they saw anything, heard anything, have security cameras, have any information whatsoever. They collect camera footage from every home that has cameras. They interview people. They take statements. They create a comprehensive picture of activity in the area during the relevant time frame. That is basic investigative procedure. That is Investigation 101. You canvass the area thoroughly. But the Stradiglia's home, despite being 7 minutes from the crime scene on a back road that connects to Nancy's neighborhood, was never canvassed. They were never asked about cameras. If they had not taken the initiative to contact Fox News because they saw media coverage and thought their footage might be relevant, would this evidence ever have come to light? Would investigators ever have seen the Kia Soul at 2:36 a.m.? Or would it have remained on the Stradiglia's camera, documented but unknown to the investigation? Second, their home sits on a back road that provides a direct route away from Nancy's neighborhood while avoiding major intersections. This is the kind of route that someone planning a crime and thinking tactically about escape routes might identify and use specifically because it avoids main streets. An experienced investigator thinking about how a suspect might have left the area would want to check back roads, would want to identify routes that avoid main thoroughfares and check whether cameras or witnesses along those routes captured anything relevant. Yet this back road was never checked systematically. Third, there is an important geographic and procedural issue with how the investigation defined the search radius and disseminated requests for footage. The Pima County Sheriff's Department sent out alerts through the Ring Neighbors app, requesting that people within a certain radius of Nancy's home check their cameras and provide footage to investigators. That alert went through Ring's systems to Ring camera owners within the defined radius. It is an efficient way to reach many potential camera owners quickly, without having to physically knock on every door. But the Stradiglia's home is just outside that radius. They live about 2.5 miles or roughly 4 kilometers from Nancy's home when measured as straight-line distance. The Ring alert apparently went to homes within approximately a 2-mile or 3-kilometer radius. So the Stradiglias were just beyond the boundary of the automated alert radius and did not receive the Ring neighbors' request for footage. The algorithm drew a circle around Nancy's home. Their home was outside that circle, so they were not included. That raises critical questions about how search radiuses are determined and whether they adequately account for routes and connectivity rather than just straight-line distance. Why was the radius set at approximately 2 miles? Why not 3 miles? Why not 4 miles? Who made that decision, and what factors were considered? Was the decision based on resource constraints, on assumptions about how far someone could travel in the relevant time frame, on historical patterns from other cases, on some other rationale? Whatever the reasoning, the result was that a home on a direct back road route from the crime scene, a home only 7 minutes driving distance away, a home with a street-facing camera that captured 12 vehicles, including what appears to be a Kia Soul at a critical timestamp, was excluded from the automated request and was never contacted manually through door-to-door canvassing. Danielle Stradiglias told Fox News that she and a friend found it strange that no police had visited their neighborhood. Strange is putting it mildly. Concerning is more accurate. Troubling. Questionable. This is a major investigation into the abduction of the mother of one of the most recognizable journalists in America. Federal resources are involved. The FBI has assigned agents. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has assigned detectives. Hundreds of investigators have worked this case according to previous reporting. Resources are not the issue. This is not a small-town department overwhelmed by a case beyond their capacity. This is a joint federal and local effort with substantial resources. Yet a back road 7 minutes from the crime scene that provides a route avoiding major intersections was never canvassed systematically. Residents there were never asked about cameras, and it was only through the initiative of the Strateguleyas in contacting Fox News and Fox News investigating and publishing that this evidence came to light and was provided to authorities. What else might have been missed? That is the uncomfortable question that anyone following this case has to ask. What other cameras exist on back roads in the Catalina foothills that were outside the ring alert radius and that were never checked because systematic door-to-door canvassing did not reach them? What other witnesses might have seen vehicles or people but were never asked because investigators did not knock on their doors? What other evidence might exist on cameras that residents have no reason to check or to think might be relevant because no one asked them? The Strateguleyas footage came to light by chance, by the initiative of residents who watched the news and who thought maybe their camera might have something. But how many residents do not watch every news report? How many have cameras but do not think to check them because police never came to their door and the ring alert never reached them? How much potential evidence sits undiscovered because the initial canvassing was not thorough enough? Those are deeply uncomfortable questions for an investigation of this magnitude and importance. And they are questions that need answers. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department need to address whether their initial search radius was adequate, whether their canvassing was thorough, whether there are other gaps that need to be filled now 26 days into the case. Now, according to Fox News, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department have been alerted to this footage. They know about it now. They know about the Kia Soul identification. They know about the 2:36 a.m. timestamp. They can investigate whether that vehicle is connected. They can do the work of trying to identify it and trace it and determine if the driver is relevant to the case. But the fact that it took a resident contacting media, rather than investigators finding this evidence through systematic canvassing, raises legitimate questions about thoroughness and about what else might have been missed. Take a moment right now to subscribe to True Crime Vault. Turn on notifications. Like this video. And comment with your thoughts on whether police should have canvassed Camino Real during the initial days of the investigation, or whether the 2.5-mile distance and the back road location made it reasonable to exclude from the initial search radius. Now let me tell you about the other disturbing evidence that emerged from this same back road area, because the Kia Soul is not the only significant observation from Camino Real and the surrounding streets. Fox News reports that another neighbor in the area, a young mother who asked not to be identified due to safety concerns for herself and her children, saw a suspicious man walking in the area on February 2nd. That is the day after Nancy was taken. This woman contacted Fox News to report what she saw after the route of Camino Real as a back road route out of Nancy's neighborhood had been pointed out to Fox News Digital as potentially significant by someone analyzing possible escape routes. This neighbor described the man she saw in detail. She said he was approximately 5'9" tall. She described him as Hispanic. She said he had a short beard. She noted that he was wearing a silver bracelet, and she said he was smoking a cigarette when she saw him. The location where she saw him is important. He was near the intersection of Camino Juan Paisano and Piedra Seca. That intersection is between Camino Real and Nancy's home. So this location is on a route that connects the back road where the Kia Soul was captured to the crime scene area. It is geographically between the two locations. The timing is February 2nd, one day after Nancy disappeared. And the man's behavior or appearance struck this neighbor as suspicious enough that she remembered it clearly and thought it was worth reporting when she saw media coverage suggesting that the Camino Real area might be relevant to understanding routes away from the crime scene. Why would someone be walking in that area on February 2nd, the day after a major crime occurred nearby? Perhaps for completely innocent reasons. Perhaps he is a resident of the area and was out for a walk. Perhaps he was going somewhere on foot. Perhaps he lives nearby and regularly walks in that area, and there is nothing unusual about his presence. All of those are possible innocent explanations. But the neighbor's assessment that he seemed suspicious, combined with the location on a route between the back road and the crime scene, combined with the timing one day after Nancy disappeared, makes this an observation worth investigating. At minimum, investigators would want to identify who this man is, determine if he lives in the area, establish why he was there on February 2nd, and rule him out as connected to the case if appropriate. That is basic follow-up investigation. Additionally, this same neighbor reported seeing a dark red Honda SUV that appeared to be abandoned or parked near Camino Real on February 2nd. She took photographs of the vehicle, which Fox News obtained and published in their article. The photographs show a dark red Honda SUV with visible damage to the bumper. The vehicle sat in the same location for approximately 3 days, according to the neighbor. It did not move. It appeared abandoned or parked long-term rather than just temporarily stopped. At some point during those 3 days, deputies from the Pima County Sheriff's Department came to examine the vehicle. Fox News published a photograph showing 2 Sheriff's Department vehicles parked near the red Honda, with deputies apparently looking at it and possibly inspecting it or running the plates or trying to determine why it was there. So authorities were aware of this vehicle. They responded to it. They examined it. But what happened after that examination is unknown. After approximately 3 days, the red Honda was removed from the location, according to the neighbor. Was it towed by Sheriff's Department as abandoned? Was it impounded for investigation? Did the owner return and drive it away? Was it determined to be unconnected to anything and simply towed because it was parked illegally? None of that has been explained publicly. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has not responded to multiple phone calls and emails from Fox News asking about the suspicious man or about the Honda SUV, according to the Fox News article. No public information has been released about whether the vehicle was connected to the investigation of Nancy's disappearance, whether it was investigated as potentially relevant, whether the owner was identified and interviewed, whether it was determined to be completely unrelated. The silence from authorities leaves all of these questions unanswered and allows speculation to fill the void where factual information should be. So on this back road and in the immediate area, we have multiple concerning observations that collectively create a pattern worth understanding, even if each individual observation might have an innocent explanation. We have the Kia Soul passing at 2:36 a.m., 8 minutes after the Pacemaker stopped. We have a suspicious man seen walking on February 2nd near the route between the back road and Nancy's home. We have a dark red Honda SUV with damage sitting near the area for days starting February 2nd, with sheriff's deputies examining it and then it being removed. And we have the fact that despite all of these observations occurring in the same general area, police never systematically canvassed this neighborhood to ask residents what they had seen or to request camera footage. None of these observations has been explained publicly. None has been confirmed as connected to Nancy's case. None has been ruled out as unconnected. They all sit in the category of unexplained observations and unanswered questions that investigators may have answered privately but have not shared with the public. True Crime Vault provides comprehensive coverage that connects details across multiple reports and multiple sources. Subscribe so you never miss analysis. Turn on notifications, like this video, visit our channel for previous coverage, and comment with your thoughts on whether these observations from the Camino Real area are connected or coincidental. Now let me tell you about another witness observation from mid-January that adds context to the pattern of suspicious activity in the area before Nancy disappeared. Fox News reported in this same February 26th article about a witness observation from mid-January that we have mentioned in previous coverage, but that gains additional significance when combined with the new information about the Camino Real area. Adrien Meister, a neighbor in the Catalina Hills community, told Fox News about seeing an unidentified man in mid-January walking in the area weeks before Nancy disappeared. Meister described the man as not wearing typical walking gear. In residential areas where people walk for exercise or recreation, there is an expected appearance: athletic shoes, comfortable clothes appropriate for the weather, perhaps a hat or sunglasses. The clothing signals that someone is engaged in exercise or outdoor activity. The man Meister saw did not fit that pattern. His clothing did not match what someone out for a walk would typically wear. She also noted that he had his hat pulled really far over his eyes. Not just wearing a hat, which is normal, but pulling it down deliberately to cover his face, to make it difficult for someone looking at him to see his features clearly. That behavior causes people to notice because it is not normal. People do not typically obscure their faces unless they are trying to avoid being identified or recognized. Meister said the man was kind of younger, suggesting he appeared to be perhaps in his 20s, 30s, or 40s rather than elderly. And she made a judgment based on everything she observed that he just did not look like he was going out for a walk. Despite being on foot in a neighborhood where people do walk for exercise, Something about his appearance, his behavior, his demeanor, his body language did not match the pattern of recreational walking. Her final assessment, the conclusion she reached after observing him, was that he just did not fit. He did not fit the neighborhood. He did not fit what she would expect to see. He stood out to her as anomalous, as someone who should not be there, or who was there for reasons other than what he was pretending. Meister saw this man walking in the neighborhood near an intersection that leads to Nancy's home. She had not seen him before that one occasion and did not see him again afterward. He was not a regular presence. He was there once, observed once, and then gone. That pattern is consistent with someone conducting surveillance or reconnaissance, rather than someone who lives in the area and walks regularly. Meister mentioned this observation to her husband at the time when she saw the man because it struck her as notable, but she did not report it to investigators until after Nancy disappeared. That is completely understandable. At the time in mid-January, the man had not committed any crime. He was just walking. Being suspicious looking is not illegal. Having your hat pulled low is not a crime. Meister had no reason to call police about someone walking because there was no crime to report. It is only in retrospect, after Nancy was taken, that the observation gained potential significance as possible surveillance or reconnaissance in the weeks before the crime. So, we have observations of potentially suspicious men at 3 different times. Mid-January, a man walking near Nancy's neighborhood who struck a resident as not fitting. February 1st, a masked individual captured on doorbell camera at Nancy's home. And February 2nd, a man walking near Camino Real between the back road and Nancy's home who struck a resident as suspicious. Whether these are 3 different people or whether any of them are the same person is unknown. Whether any or all of them are connected to Nancy's abduction is unknown. But the pattern of people in the area who struck witnesses as unusual or suspicious across multiple weeks is notable. We also have vehicle observations. The white van that neighbors mentioned in previous reporting as being parked in Nancy's area days before she disappeared. The Kia Soul captured at 2:36 a.m. on February 1st on Camino Real. The dark red Honda SUV with damage that appeared near Camino Real on February 2nd. 12 vehicles total captured on the Strategolia's camera between midnight and 6 a.m. on February 1st. All of this vehicle activity in the same general area during the relevant time frame. And we have the back road itself, Camino Real, which provides a route from Nancy's neighborhood to East River Road while avoiding major intersections. A route that makes logical sense for someone wanting to leave the area with reduced visibility. A route that was never systematically canvassed by police. A route where residents have cameras and observations that only came to light through media reporting, rather than through investigative outreach. Visit True Crime Vault's channel right now and watch our previous videos on this case. We have detailed analysis of the doorbell camera footage, the Google search data, the DNA evidence from the glove, the timeline of the night Nancy disappeared, and every other major aspect of this investigation. Subscribe so you never miss updates. Like this video, and comment with your analysis. Now let me address what Fox News explicitly states about the usefulness of this evidence and what that tells us about where the investigation actually stands. Fox News states clearly in their February 26th article that it is not immediately clear if the video is useful to the investigation. That phrase, not immediately clear, is doing a lot of work. It could mean several different things, and we need to think carefully about what it might indicate about what investigators know or do not know. First possibility. Investigators have not yet fully analyzed this footage because it only recently came to their attention. The Strategolias contacted Fox News. Fox News published the footage. The FBI and Sheriff's Department were alerted. But as of February 26th, when the article was published, investigators may not have completed enhancement work, identification efforts, cross-referencing with other evidence, and all the other analytical steps that would determine whether the Kia Soul is connected. In this scenario, not immediately clear means the assessment is ongoing and incomplete. Second possibility, investigators have analyzed the footage and have determined the Kia Soul is not connected to the crime. Perhaps they identified the vehicle. Perhaps it belongs to a resident of Camino Real with a completely innocent reason for being there at 2:36 a.m. Perhaps they have ruled it out. But they are not stating that publicly because they do not want to discourage other potential witnesses or tips, or because they do not want to reveal details of their investigation, or for other tactical reasons. In this scenario, Not immediately clear is a diplomatic way of saying we checked, and it is not relevant, but we are not going to say that explicitly. Third possibility, investigators have analyzed the footage and believe the Kia Soul might be connected, but they do not have enough additional evidence yet to make that determination definitive. Perhaps they cannot read the license plate. Perhaps they cannot identify the driver. Perhaps they need more investigation before they can say whether this is a breakthrough or a dead end. In this scenario, not immediately clear means genuinely uncertain and needing more work. Fourth possibility, investigators have identified the Kia Soul and believe it is connected and are actively investigating the driver, but cannot say anything publicly because doing so would compromise the investigation. In this scenario, not immediately clear is misdirection designed to avoid revealing to potential suspects what investigators know. We have no way to determine which of these scenarios or which combination of them accurately describes the current state of the investigation's assessment of the Kia Soul footage. That uncertainty is frustrating for anyone following the case and desperate for answers about what happened to Nancy. But it is also completely normal for active investigations. Investigators do not share everything they know. They do not reveal their assessments of evidence publicly until they are ready, and they use vague language like not immediately clear to avoid saying anything that could help or hurt the case. Fox News also states that it is not immediately clear if the vehicle ever even was on Guthrie Street. That is a second critical caveat that we must understand and acknowledge. The Kia Soul was captured 2.5 miles from Nancy's home on a back road. That back road connects to routes that lead to Nancy's neighborhood. But the vehicle being on Camino Real does not prove it was ever on Camino Escalante where Nancy lives. The vehicle could belong to someone who lives on Camino Real. It could have been driving home or leaving home at 2:36 a.m. The driver could have been completely unaware of what was happening at Nancy's home 2.5 miles away. The 8-minute gap between the pacemaker disconnection and the vehicle passing could be pure coincidence with no connection whatsoever. That is absolutely possible, and we cannot dismiss that possibility just because the timing seems suspiciously precise. This is why even with expert identification of the vehicle type, and even with the 8-minute timeline that fits perfectly with fleeing the scene, investigators cannot declare this a breakthrough without additional evidence. They need something that places this specific vehicle on Nancy Street or in her immediate area. They need to identify the driver and find connections to other evidence. They need witnesses who saw this vehicle near Nancy's home. They need forensic evidence. They need something beyond just timing and route that are consistent with, but not proof of connection. This is the frustration of following investigations. We see evidence that seems significant. We see timelines that fit. We see routes that make sense. And we want that to mean something definitive. But investigations do not work that way. Investigators need evidence that can support charges and convictions. They need evidence that eliminates reasonable doubt. Consistency is not enough. Plausibility is not enough. They need proof. The Kia Soul at 2:36 a.m. is a lead worth investigating. It is a thread worth pulling. But whether it leads anywhere, whether it connects to Nancy's abduction, or turns out to be coincidental, that determination requires investigation that either has not been completed or has been completed but not disclosed. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for 26 days as of the Fox News article publication date. Her family has offered $1 million in addition to FBI and Crime Stoppers rewards for a total of $1.2 million available for information leading to her location. Savannah Guthrie has acknowledged that her mother may already be dead, but the family needs to know where she is regardless of the outcome. The investigation has received tens of thousands of tips from the public. Multiple agencies continue working the case even as field presence decreases. And now we know about a Kia Soul captured on camera at 2:36 a.m. 8 minutes after Nancy's pacemaker stopped. We know about a back road that was never canvassed. We know about a suspicious man on February 2nd. We know about a damaged red Honda SUV. We know about observations of suspicious activity in the area over multiple weeks. All of this information exists. All of it is documented. And somewhere in all of it might be the answer to what happened to Nancy Guthrie and who took her. True Crime Vault will continue covering this case comprehensively until Nancy is found and those responsible are identified and brought to justice. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on all notifications. Like this video. Visit our channel for complete coverage. Comment with your thoughts and analysis. And if you have information about a Kia Soul that was in the Catalina foothills on February 1st, if you know someone who drives a Kia Soul and who was behaving suspiciously around that time, if you saw any vehicle in the Camino Real area during those early morning hours, if you have any information whatsoever, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. Do not assume your information is not important. Do not assume someone else has already reported it. Call. $1.2 million in rewards are available. But beyond the money, Nancy's family deserves answers. They deserve to know where she is. They deserve justice. And your information might be the piece that investigators need to put everything together. The Kia Soul might be connected. It might not be. The 8-minute timeline might be significant. It might be coincidence. But the footage exists. Investigators have it now. And they will determine what it means through systematic investigation, even if we as the public never learn the full story of how they made that determination or what they concluded. That is how investigations work. Evidence is gathered. Evidence is analyzed. Cases are built or leads are ruled out. And justice hopefully is served even when the public does not see every step of how that justice was achieved. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She deserves to be found. Her family deserves answers. And every piece of evidence, every camera capture, every witness observation, every tip from the public brings investigators closer to those answers, even when the path forward is not immediately clear.